So my name is Victor, and I am a licensed massage therapist and a spa manager currently. So that would definitely be my father, my late father. God rest his soul. We had a contentious relationship growing up. He was kind of a hard ass and a little bit of an alcoholic, and so kind of like a hairpin trigger, like temper and all this stuff. And we used to argue a lot back and forth. And I kind of grew up with a bit of resentment for my old man growing up. And at some point, he actually ended up getting sick. Like he ended up getting Alzheimer's and like early onset Parkinson's. And so my family and I were like all doing what we need to do to like take care of him and stuff like that. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, like I don't know. He was always constantly like working and stuff like that. And like me and him didn't really have much of a relationship. Like we didn't really go out much. To this day, I don't know much about the man really. But yeah, so I had a stank attitude about the whole thing and taking care of him and everything. And so one day I was actually talking to my sister about it. And so my sister was like, you should try to have a little bit more patience and sympathy for dad, like especially with where he came from. And so I didn't have much of a conversation with my dad growing up, so I had any idea what this like upbringing was like. And so it turned out that my father, like his mother, was like a little bit not on the right path. And so she made some mistakes, and his father was out before he was even born. And my father and his mother also didn't have a great relationship. He pretty much, like, as soon as he was weaned off of the breast milk, he pretty much she gave her away to one of the neighbors. And despite this, my father still loved his mother, and this is despite like growing up in the same neighborhood. His mom used to ignore him, and my mom tells me now about a story where it's like they're walking on opposite sides of the street, and it's like, oh, look, that's my mom, that's her mom, and he's like waving, and my mom says she'll never forget it. She looks over at him, turns her nose up, and then just continues walking. And my dad just, like shrugs it off and just keeps on walking, and into his even like I don't know, when he got older, he moved over here and everything, to give us like a better opportunity and all that stuff. And he always maintained contact with his mom and always sent money and still always did his like due diligence to try to take care of her despite the bad relationship that they had. And at this point I'm like crying, because like I'm here complaining, and my dad was doing the best that he could. He didn't know he was pretty much like raised by random neighbors. He didn't have a mom, he didn't have a dad, and he still stuck by us. And I have a lot of cousins and stuff like that where their families unfortunately ended up going through divorce. And I ended up learning a lot about society and sociology and stuff like this, and like the real struggles that like single parented kids end up having to go through in this country. It's like really, really tough. And I didn't have to go through that because my dad stuck by us, and it was like he didn't give us much. He didn't give me much advice as far as like growing up. But the number one thing he did was he was very adamant about God, Jesus Christ, and just like son, all the answers that you need are in the book. And sure enough, honestly, like I was a weird kid growing up, and so I got really into self-help to try to compensate for a lot of these things that I was short on, on how to like make friends and talk to people and all this stuff. And not until way later did I start getting into the Bible and all this stuff. And I didn't realize up until then that like honestly, had I probably just read the Bible and started from there, I probably could have gone without reading like 98% of the books that I read. It was really kind of shocking to me, but like I'm really grateful for my old man. I'm grateful for the stability that he brought to our family. I'm grateful that he kept to his promises, and he wasn't perfect by any means. None of us are, but he did try his best, and we got better than he did growing up. And so yeah, truly love him from the bottom of my heart. I wish I could tell him. Yeah, he was a good man. I just didn't apologize at all, really, while he was alive. I just ended up like, what is it called? It's like the masculine thing really works. It's like we don't apologize, but then we just start acting right, and that's pretty much just what I did. But I never really verbalized any of it. I got better with my relationship with my father and telling him that I love him and all this stuff, and trying to take care of him in the whole thing. But I never outright said like sorry or apologized and all this stuff. And so, yeah, sorry, Dad. Dad, I love you. You're a great man, and in many aspects, better than I was, given the things that you had to overcome. And I've seen the struggles of my friends and how lost they are because they didn't have any kind of father figure present. And I'm grateful that you gave me that. You know, I'm a man who is firm in his beliefs and convictions because of the type of person that you were. And I'm grateful every day that you were in our lives and that you were able to overcome the things that you overcame. And I hope that I'm able to do the same thing for my kids and continue this generational improvement that we have going on in our family. I love you, Dad, with all of my heart. And I miss you every day. And I look forward to the day that I get to see you again.
What a great story. To think that Victor didn't know the extent of hardship his father endured growing up until he became ill, butting heads with him as a teen and missing out on father and son bonding experiences, only to discover later in his life that his father was essentially handicapped by his own trauma, but was doing his best despite those setbacks. Teens aren't always the most empathetic when they aren't getting what they want, and sometimes it takes a bit of maturity to truly learn to appreciate the sacrifices their parents make to give them the best they have to offer. The fact that Victor was able to say the words, "I love you," to his father before he passed away was truly a gift. The fact that Victor was able to process why his father was not very easy to get along with before he died afforded him the opportunity to have some closure. Over the years, Victor found hope in a religious experience that helped him process the pain affiliated with a broken relationship with his father. Even better, his father found hope in the same experience over his life, and I'm sure it was even more fulfilling for Victor to come full circle and share that same conviction and sense of hope his father had. When the camera wasn't rolling, I shared the story of another couple I interviewed where one of them was able to apologize to her mother post-mortem for being a difficult and rebellious teenager. She apologized to some extent before her mother passed in her 20s, but even then, she wasn't fully mature enough to understand the gravity of the situation at the time. Her emotional address to her deceased mother was just as much for her as it would have been for her mother, and she deserved to say it, to address her mother and remove the weight of the guilt and anxiety she had been carrying all these years. In fact, her mother loved her and would have readily forgiven her if she were still alive. This act of confession was much needed for her. Click right up here to see that interview with Donica and Joel. Love has a way of creating room for forgiveness. Don't ever assume that just because someone has passed away that they would have been reluctant to forgive you. You deserve to ask for it, and you have no right to assume that they would not have forgiven you. Don't close the door on them. Don't assume that they would not have grown as well. We live our best lives when we can live freely. Don't bottle up your guilt. Apologize to those that you've hurt. You deserve to get it off your chest as much as they deserve to finally let go of the pain. Victor, thank you for being so open and so gracious, sharing your story with us. I can tell that you have a sense of pride about your father. You now recognize him as a man of strength and stature beyond what you knew before. The comment you made about progressing from one generation to the next, determined to show the same dedication and strength your father displayed for you to your own kids. How encouraging to think that you can now love your own children better because of your experiences with your father. That's amazing. To our viewers, thank you for watching. Your viewership is important to the success of the channel, so if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Also, feel free to leave any positive comments you might have for Victor down below. Don't forget to check out any of my other videos where I approach people in public and ask them intimate questions about their lives. Consider supporting the channel by clicking the link in the description below, where you can shop at my online apparel store, StyleyLifeDesigns.com. You'll find t-shirts, hats, and hoodies with positive and uplifting themes to complement your lifestyle. When you shop, know that a portion of the proceeds from anything you buy will help contribute to the creation of more positive content just like this. Real people, real life, real love. Until next time, I've been Kevin with the Shared Heart Experiment. Be good to each other. Thanks for watching.